Okay, this game is Botvinnik versus Tal in their 1960 World Championship match. Botvinnik was regarded as the father of the Soviet chess school. This virtual school had players like Karpov, Kasparov and later Kramnik. So he held a very important place in the rise of Soviet chess. Here, against Tal, who had a moment of fame for 1 year as world champion, Tal won this key game with a beautiful knight sack later on. Here in the opening we see Botvinnik's using the fianchetto variation against the King's Indian. So it's very solid. Probably designed to discourage Tal from going for an all-out attack with f5 and a typical kingside pawn storm. So here Tal plays c6, and now h3, and now queen b6. So Tal is tempting these pawns forward so he can get some dark square outposts here. Botvinnik obliges, so potentially there's the knight on c5 as an outpost. Now also here this is interesting because usually black would play a sort of routine plan of knight moving and an f5, so the rook's behind the pawn. But Tal realises that this fianchetto bishop means that the pressure on the queen side is not as great as in the main lines of the King's Indian. So he does an unusual mixture of a plan of getting more control of the c-file now and then later playing f5, as we're going to see. So this bishop d7 comes in here, and now you see an exchange on d3, and now rook fc8. So the rook is moving behind that f-pawn which normally would have gone forward, because Tal is thinking he wants to pressure the c-file. So this is quite an unusual plan, but quite effective here in this particular kind of position. So he's actually doubled rooks. I mean, it's normally, unheard of for the black in the King's Indian to do this. And now he combines the f5 idea, but not with necessarily a pawn storm, but also just pressure on e4 here. So there's a lot of e4 pressure being built up. Bishop takes f5 is slightly controversial because if white can wither these tactical threats and gain control of e4, statistically that's often decisive. It's often the strategic square for white to aim for, which is why often when black plays this f5 they're prepared to recapture gf. But here this knight would have been imprisoned. So this leads to a spectacular move here, knight f4 now. So this is the point of Tal's play. It's just a beautiful knight sacrifice, but not necessarily completely sound. There's a typical mystery with Tal's sacrifices, and this is yet another mystery game. Could white have really defended? Why did Botvinnik seem to just crack? Shortly after this sack. So Botvinnik takes the knight, so he's a piece up now. So what has black got for it? Well, this bishop's opened up on this diagonal. This bishop's also sort of reinforcing the pressure on white's queen side. And also we see this e5 square might be a useful pivot for the bishop coming here to harass white's king. So here the bishop moves back. And now Tal takes on b2. Quite cheeky, but justified in a way because this bishop's on b1. So hopefully Botvinnik doesn't play rook b1. But that's exactly what Botvinnik did now. He did play rook b1, so he sacrificed the exchange. Now first let's see, could Tal have just won this exchange? So if Tal had taken, then rook takes b1, and maybe, Botvinnik's coming to the 7th rank and it's going to be dangerous. So let's say queen c2. But here, Botvinnik could flick in bishop e4 to evict that queen. And this might be much better for white. E.g. f3, queen e1, check, king g1, and actually, white has to lose the exchange now. Black has to lose the exchange. So rook e4, knight e4, because the queen was trapped. Let's say queen takes a2. Now rook takes b7, and with the rook on the 7th, white has a clear advantage here, I believe. So let's go back. So rook b1 was played. So was Tal panicking here? Well, what he did play now was f3, believe it or not. So he's opening up this diagonal for the bishop check. And now here, Botvinnik, I think, lost the plot completely. Probably best was just bishop takes f3. But what he played was actually to just take the queen, and after f takes e, rook b3, rook d4, black's got immense pressure now on the white position. There's a lot of threats, and this pawn is very dangerous. Botvinnik played bishop e1, and now we have check, bishop e5 check. So king g1, and now bishop f4. So white is under great pressure, and here, in fact, maybe losing material by force, because where is the rook moving? Let's say the rook moves to a1. Then rook takes c3 is on, because this pawn is about to be liberated. Say rook takes c3, rook d1, and white's falling to bits trying to save against this pawn. So that's a clear advantage for black. So basically Botvinnik just has to give back a piece. What he plays now is knight takes e2, and this leads to a slightly worse ending now. We have this simplification. So Tal is no longer material down. He's actually material up at the moment. So he's got a fine ending position with the two bishops against the bishop at knight, and white's king's very passive. So he's got the advantage now, materially and positionally. Anyway, Botvinnik captures on b7, which could be dangerous. It is rook on the 7th. But after bishop takes d5, rook c7, bishop takes a2, there's a lot of pawns now. Tal's actually 2 pawns up here. Okay, 1 pawn up now. But bishop c4, and this d pawn is now a goer. So we'll see some endgame technique now. So d5, and the pawn's being herded through with these 2 bishops. But Tal takes a moment for this bishop h4. Now bishop g3. With the simplifications, the pawn grows a bit stronger, especially if the king can shepherd the pawn now. So after all the fireworks, Tal is just a pawn up in this rook and pawn inning, and it's a very dangerous pawn indeed. In fact, here, Botvinnik resigned. So it's just another mysterious Tal game, a mysterious piece sack. And Botvinnik just cracked shortly after. There was an interesting moment here, where, as I say earlier, bishop takes f3. Probably the computers think this might have been okay for white. Let's have a quick look. Bishop f3, and let's say bishop takes b1, rook takes b1, queen c2, and now here rook c1 is an interesting move, and maybe white was okay here, or bishop e4 maybe even stronger actually. So bishop e4, and if rook takes e4, knight takes e4, a whole rook sacrifice. So this is just what my analytical assistants found. So white spectacularly sacrificed in this rook, because knight takes d6, and white's queen is coming in with a vicious queen e6 check, gaining the rook back in this variation, and probably white's doing absolutely fine here, e.g. queen f5, ga, gf, and white's doing fine. So this was a could have been continuation. Anyway, let's go back to the final position and see where Botvinnik resigns. So this is just rook and pawn ending, and the pawn was decisive. A fascinating game. Another mysterious Tal victory with an interesting piece sacrifice.